Hey, my name is Evan Parker. I'm 26 years old and I work as a software engineer in Boulder, Colorado. It's a decent job, pays the bills, keeps me busy with code and deadlines, but it's not what defines me. What defines me these days is the quiet. I live alone in a small rented apartment on the edge of downtown, the kind with thin walls and a view of the Rockies that I rarely stop to appreciate. Mornings are coffee from a cheap machine, evenings are takeout or whatever's in the fridge, and nights are spent scrolling through work emails or strumming an old guitar I never got good at. It's a routine, safe and predictable, and that's how I like it. 2 years ago, everything changed. I was 24 when my parents died in a car accident on I-70 coming back from a weekend in Denver. One minute they were there, my mom texting me about dinner plans, my dad probably cracking some bad joke, and the next, they were gone. The police said it was a semi-truck that lost control in the snow. I handled the funeral, the paperwork, the empty house they left behind. But after that, something in me shut down. I stopped going out, stopped trying to meet people. Dating? Forget it. Every time I thought about it, the doubts crept in. What if I'm not enough? What if I lose them too? It was easier to focus on work, on lines of code that didn't judge or disappear. My sister Lauren is the only one who pushes back. She's 22, a college student in Denver, full of that optimistic energy I lost somewhere along the way. She calls me every week, checking in like she's the older one. "Evan, you can't just hide forever," she'd say. "You're young, smart, kind of handsome if you shave. Give someone a chance." I always brushed it off. Work's busy, I'm fine on my own. But she didn't let up. Last month, she texted me a link to some blind date app, one of those setups where friends match you without photos or details. "Just one date," she begged. "For me." Her name's Ava Quinn. She's 28, lives nearby, and my friend swears she's amazing. "Meet at the Steamy Bean, 7 p.m. Friday, one coffee, that's all." I stared at the message for hours. Part of me wanted to say no, but Lauren's voice echoed in my head. "You need a fresh start, Evan. For yourself." Fine, I thought. Worst case, I make an excuse about a work emergency and leave early. So I agreed, if only to get her off my back. Friday came with a bite of winter chill, the kind that seeps through your coat and reminds you how alone the world can feel. I pulled on a simple button-down and jeans, nothing fancy, and drove to the cafe. The Steamy Bean is this cozy spot downtown. Exposed brick walls, mismatched chairs, the hum of quiet conversations over steaming mugs. I got there early, ordered a black coffee, and sat at table 7 like Lauren instructed. My hands fidgeted with the cup as I watched the door, half hoping she'd cancel. Then the door opened, letting in a gust of cold air. A woman rolled in on an electric wheelchair, her blonde hair braided loosely over one shoulder, wearing a gray sweater that looked soft and worn. She scanned the room, her eyes landing on me. I raised a hand in a tentative wave, figuring this must be Ava. She started toward the table, but as she got closer, something shifted. Her expression froze, eyes widening in what looked like shock. Then she stopped, her hands trembling on the controls. Tears welled up and she began to shake, a quiet sob escaping her lips. The cafe noise faded. People glanced over, curious, concerned, but no one moved. I stood up, heart pounding, and walked toward her slowly. "Ava?" I said softly. She nodded, but the tears came harder now, her shoulders heaving. She shook her head, whispering something I couldn't catch. The whole place felt like it was staring. I knelt down to her level, trying to meet her eyes without invading her space. "Hey, it's okay. I'm Evan. If this isn't what you expected, or if you want me to go, just say the word." My voice was steady, but inside I was scrambling. What had I walked into? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, her breathing ragged. I thought, my friend said the guy was like me." She gestured faintly to the wheelchair, her voice breaking. I don't want pity, not again. Please, just go." The words hit me like a punch. Pity? That's what she thought this was? I glanced around at the stares, the whispers, and felt a surge of protectiveness I didn't expect. "Ava, listen," I said, keeping my voice low. "My sister set this up. She said you're incredible, someone worth meeting. I didn't know about any of this, but I'm not here out of pity. I'm here because I promised her I'd show up and have a coffee. If you want to leave, we can both walk or roll out right now. No hard feelings. She looked at me then, really looked, her blue eyes searching mine for any sign of a lie. The shaking eased a little. You don't have to stay, she murmured. I know, I replied. But I'd like to if you're okay with it. No pressure, just two strangers, one cup of coffee. We can talk about the weather or whatever. Or nothing at all. The cafe buzz died down as people lost interest. Ava took a deep breath, composing herself. After what felt like forever, she nodded slightly. Okay, sit down. I stood up slowly and pulled out a chair, but she maneuvered her wheelchair to the table herself. We sat in awkward silence at first, me stirring my coffee, her adjusting her sweater. So, I started, cappuccino or something else? She managed a small, tentative smile, the first one. Cappuccino, less sugar. And just like that, the ice began to crack. As the waitress brought Ava her cappuccino, I watched her hands steady on the mug, her fingers wrapping around it like it was an anchor. The cafe's hum returned, clinking cups, low chatter, but between us the air felt thick, charged with whatever had just happened. I didn't push. I'd learned the hard way that silence could be kinder than questions. Ava took a sip, her eyes flicking up to mine, still red from crying, but clearer now. Thank you, she said quietly, for not leaving. Most people would have. I shrugged, trying to play it cool. I'm not most people. And honestly, I've had my share of bad days where I'd want someone to stick around too. It wasn't a lie. The accident that took my parents had left me raw, jumping at shadows for months. But I didn't dive into that yet. This wasn't about me. She nodded, tracing the rim of her cup. So, Evan, what did your sister tell you about me? Besides my name. Not much, I admitted. Just that you're someone worth meeting. She's persistent like that. What about you? What did your friend say? Ava let out a small, bitter laugh. Probably that I'm inspiring or something. People love that word. Makes them feel good without having to deal with the mess. She paused, her gaze dropping to her wheelchair. I didn't plan on this being a surprise. My friend must have messed up the details. She thought the guy was similar to me. To avoid the whole awkward pity party. I leaned back, keeping my tone even. I'm sorry if it caught you off guard, but for what it's worth, I'm not here for a pity party. I'm just here for coffee. Her shoulders relaxed a fraction. Okay, then let's do that. We started with the basics, where we worked, what we did. I told her about my job as a software engineer, debugging code for a startup in town, the endless Zoom calls and late nights fixing bugs that no one else noticed. It's solitary, I said, but it keeps my mind off things. Ava worked from home as a designer for adaptive tech, things like custom wheelchair accessories or apps for accessibility. I got into it after everything, she said, her voice trailing. And then, slowly, she opened up more. It started with the accident. 4 years ago, she was 24, training as a competitive skier, pushing her limits on the slopes near Aspen. I was good, she said, a flicker of pride in her eyes. Not Olympic level yet, but close. I lived for that rush, the speed, the control. Then one icy morning, a car skidded on black ice, slamming into hers on the way to practice. She woke up in the hospital, tubes everywhere, doctors explaining she'd never walk again, paraplegia from the waist down. I thought that was the end, she continued, her voice steady but laced with old pain. Not just skiing, everything. My boyfriend at the time? He tried. For 2 months, flowers, visits, the works. But then he started pulling away. Said he didn't recognize me anymore, that I was different, like I was a broken version of the girl he fell for. She looked at me then, searching for judgment. He left. And every date since? It's the same script. Guys show up thinking they're heroes for dating the girl in the wheelchair. Or they bail when they realize it's not a fairy tale fix. I listened, really listened without interrupting. Her words hit close. Too close. That sounds exhausting, I said finally. Having to prove you're more than what people see. She tilted her head. You get it? Yeah. I took a breath, deciding to share. 2 years ago, I lost my parents. Car accident on the interstate, semi-truck in the snow. I was supposed to meet them for dinner that night. My voice caught, but I pushed on. One day they're there, nagging me about settling down, and the next, gone. I handled the arrangements, sold the house, but after that I just shut down. Buried myself in work. Dating? No way. I figured, why risk it? What if I let someone in and lose them? Or worse, what if I'm not enough to keep them? Ava's eyes softened. That's why you agreed to this? Your sister pushing you out of your shell? Pretty much. She's the only one who calls me on it, but yeah, I get the fear. Feeling like you're not the person people signed up for. We sat with that for a moment, the weight of our stories hanging between us. But it wasn't heavy. It was real. Ava talked about her recovery, the months of physical therapy, learning to navigate a world built for people who walk. It's not just the legs, she said. It's the stairs, the assumptions. People think you're fragile, but I'm not. I design stuff now, ramps, apps that map accessible routes. It gives me purpose. I nodded. That's impressive. I code apps too, but nothing that changes lives like that. She smiled faintly. Don't sell yourself short. Coding keeps the world running. The conversation flowed from there. Favorite books. She loved sci-fi for the escapism. I stuck to thrillers. Music. Both of us into indie folk. Even bad habits. Her late-night online shopping. Mine forgetting to eat when coding. We weren't flirting exactly, just connecting. No forced compliments, no awkward silences. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about an exit strategy. The barista called last orders around 10 p.m., and by closing at 11, we were still talking. Ava checked her phone. Wow, I didn't realize. I haven't talked this long with a stranger in forever. Me neither, I said, standing as she adjusted her chair. This was nice. Unexpected, but nice. She looked up at me, that small smile returning. Yeah, it was. We headed out together, the cold air hitting us like a wall. I walked beside her to her adapted van parked nearby. So, I said, hesitating, if you want to do this again, not as a date, just hanging out, no pressure. Ava paused at the ramp, then nodded. I'd like that. Text me? I pulled out my phone and we exchanged numbers. As she drove off, I stood there, in the snow-dusted parking lot, watching her taillights fade. For the first time since the accident, I felt a spark. Not hope exactly, but something close. Like maybe opening up wasn't the end of the world. The weeks after that first coffee blurred into something unexpected. A rhythm I hadn't realized I was missing. Ava texted me the next day. Thanks for last night. No pressure, but if you're free Wednesday, public park near Pearl Street, weather's supposed to hold. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the reply. Part of me wanted to back out, stick to my safe routine of code and solitude, but another part, the one that had felt alive in her presence, typed back, sounds good. 4 p.m.? We met at Chautauqua Park, the Flatirons rising like jagged guardians in the background. It was one of those crisp Colorado afternoons, sun filtering through pines, joggers and dogs dotting the paths. Ava was already there, her wheelchair parked by a bench, a thermos of tea in her lap. Hey, she said, waving me over. No awkwardness this time, just a simple ease, like we'd skipped the formalities. We walked, or rather I walked beside her as she rolled, along the accessible trail. Conversation picked up where we'd left off, work frustrations, the absurdity of Boulder's yoga-obsessed culture. Everyone here acts like they've got life figured out, I said, kicking a pebble. Meditation apps, green smoothies. Meanwhile, I'm debugging crashes at 2 a.m. Ava laughed, a real one that crinkled her eyes. Try explaining to a client why their smart wheelchair app glitches on hills. They think tech fixes everything. She paused at a viewpoint, gazing out at the mountains. But it doesn't, not the big stuff. That's how our meetings went. Simple outings that peeled back layers. A few days later, she invited me to her place, a ground-floor apartment in a quiet complex off Baseline Road. It was cozy, adapted with wide doors and low counters, but full of her personality. Sketches of adaptive gear on the walls, a stack of sci-fi novels by the couch, plants thriving under grow lights. I designed prototypes here, she explained, showing me a 3D printed handle for easier gripping. Started as therapy, turned into a job. I admired her setup, running my fingers over a model. This is cool. You're turning pain into something useful. She shrugged. Or just surviving. Want to see the real grind? The next week, she let me tag along to her physical therapy session at a clinic downtown. It was intense. Weights, stretches, her face set in determination as she worked her upper body. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but she pushed through, gritting her teeth. Afterward, in the parking lot, she said, "That's my reality, not glamorous." "I get it," I replied. "But watching you, it's inspiring. Not in a pity way, in a damn, she's tough way." Ava rolled her eyes playfully. "Careful, or I'll make you try it next time." We started challenging each other after that. One evening at her place, she pulled out a deck of cards. "Poker," she declared, "but my rules, no mercy." She dealt with expert flicks, her hands quick despite everything. I lost the first 3 hands, fumbling my bluffs, and she cackled each time. "You're too honest," she teased. "That's your tell." I laughed genuinely, the sound foreign in my chest. In return, I suggested an adaptive rock climbing wall at a local gym designed for wheelchair users. "You game?" I asked. She hesitated. "I haven't climbed since before." "All the more reason," I said gently. We went the following Saturday. Strapped into harnesses, she maneuvered with arm strength alone, pulling herself up inch by inch. I climbed beside her, my legs shaking more from nerves than effort. Halfway up, we both slipped a little, she from fatigue, me from sheer clumsiness, and ended up dangling, bursting into laughter. "See?" she gasped. "We're both messes." From the top looking down, something shifted. I saw Ava not as someone overcoming, but as a woman. Smart, funny, fierce. That night, over pizza back at her apartment, I realized I was falling for her. Not because of her strength, but because of her. The way she debated plot twists in books, her dry humor about bad days, how she made me feel seen without trying. But she still held back. One afternoon in the park, as families picnicked around us, I reached for her hand. She pulled away slightly. "Evan, people are looking." "Let them," I said. "I don't care." "I do," she whispered. "What if they think you're stuck with me, or that I'm holding you back?" I turned to face her. "Ava, I like you, all of you. The chair's part of it, sure, but it's not why I'm here. If you're scared, that's okay. We'll go slow." She looked away toward the mountains. "It's not just me. It's the world. The stares, the questions. I don't want you to regret this." "I won't," I promised. "But I get it. Take your time." We didn't hold hands that day, but as we left, her shoulder brushed mine, a small step. Back home, strumming my guitar, I thought about her walls and mine. I knew she needed space, and I was willing to give it. Not to fix her, but because being with her made me want to be better. For the first time, I wasn't running from my fears. I was facing them, one quiet moment at a time. 3 months after that first awkward coffee at the Steamy Bean, our connection had deepened into something I couldn't ignore. Ava and I were seeing each other almost every other day. Walks in the park, quiet dinners at her place, even a spontaneous drive up to Estes Park for fresh air. It wasn't rushed. We were both cautious, testing the waters of trust. But the world has a way of intruding, and it started with a simple idea. I wanted her to meet my old friends back in my hometown, a small spot an hour's drive from Boulder. "It'll be low-key," I promised over lunch one day. "Just a barbecue at my buddy's place. They'll love you." Ava hesitated, twisting a napkin in her hands. "Are you sure? I don't want to make things weird for you." "You're not," I said firmly. "I want them to see why I can't stop talking about you." She agreed, but I could sense her nerves building as the weekend approached. We drove up together on a sunny Saturday, her van loaded with snacks she'd insisted on bringing. My hometown hadn't changed, same quiet streets, same old high school hangouts. We pulled up to my friend Mike's backyard where a dozen people from my past were milling around with beers and burgers. Mike greeted us warmly, shaking Ava's hand. "Evan's been holding out on us," he joked. "Nice to finally meet the mystery woman." At first it went okay. Ava charmed them with stories about her design work, laughing at their bad jokes. But as the afternoon wore on, the cracks showed. One guy, an old teammate from soccer, pulled me aside while Ava was chatting with the wives. Dude, she's great and all, but you sure about this? I mean, the chair, doesn't that complicate things? I felt my jaw tighten. What do you mean? You know, day-to-day stuff. You're young, man. Don't you want someone you can hike with or whatever? I forced a smile, but inside I was fuming. She's more than enough. And yeah, we hike. Adapted trails. Mind your own business. He backed off, mumbling an apology, but the damage was done. Later, a couple of the women cornered Ava, their voices dripping with that fake sympathy I hated. You're so brave, one said. It must be hard, but Evan seems really devoted. He's special for sticking with it. Ava's smile faltered, but she held it together until we left. The drive back was quiet at first, the Rockies blurring past the windows. Then, halfway home, she broke. Pull over, she said, her voice trembling. I found a turnout, and as soon as we stopped, the tears came. I knew it, she whispered, wiping her face. They see me as a burden. And you're the saint for putting up with it. I don't want that for you, Evan. I don't want to be your project. If this is too hard, just say it. I can handle being alone. I've done it before. Her words cut deep, stirring up my own insecurities. I turned off the engine, facing her. Ava, stop! That's not what this is. I reached for her hand, and this time she let me hold it. Those idiots don't know us. Yeah, today sucked, but it's not about the chair or pity. I love you. The way you fight for what you believe in, how you make me laugh even on crap days, the fact that you see through my walls. If anything, I'm the one who's scared I'm not enough for you. She looked at me, eyes wide and wet. You love me? I nodded, my heart pounding. Yeah, I do. And I'm not going anywhere because of some dumb comments. But if you need space, tell me. We'll figure this out together. Ava pulled her hand away gently, but not to retreat, to wipe her tears. I'm scared too, she admitted. Every time someone stares or whispers, it takes me back to after the accident. Feeling like I'm less. But with you, it's different. You don't try to fix me. You just see me? We sat there in the fading light, the car growing cooler as the sun dipped. I didn't push for more, I just held her as she cried, my arm around her shoulders. We're in this, I said softly. Screw what they think. That night, back at her apartment, things shifted. We talked until 2 a.m., not about the barbecue, but about us. Our fears, our dreams. Ava opened up about therapy sessions she'd skipped lately, the dark days when she questioned her worth. I confessed my guilt over surviving my parents, how it made me hold back. We're both messed up, I said with a half laugh, but maybe that's why we work. The next day, I faced it head on. I texted the group chat. Yesterday was rough. If you care about me, respect Ava. She's not a cause. She's the woman I love. If that's a problem, we're out. Responses trickled in, apologies, support. Mike called personally. Sorry, man, I get it now. Even my aunt, who'd heard through the grapevine, reached out. Bring her to family dinner next month. We'd love to meet her properly. Ava, meanwhile, took her own step. The following weekend, we went to a crowded farmer's market in downtown Boulder. As people bustled around, she reached for my hand first, lacing her fingers through mine. A few glances came our way, but she held her head high, smiling. Let them look, she said. I'm done hiding. In that moment, watching her glow under the market lights, I knew we'd turned a corner. The world wouldn't always be kind, but we didn't need it to be. We had each other, and that was enough to face whatever came next. 9 months after that first shaky coffee date, life had woven Ava and me into something solid, unbreakable. We'd navigated the stairs, the doubts, and our own fears, emerging stronger on the other side. One crisp autumn evening, I planned it simply. No grand gestures, just us. I drove us to a quiet spot by Boulder Reservoir, the water mirroring the purple hues of sunset. We parked, and I helped unfold a blanket on the grass, the air cool with the promise of winter. Ava rolled beside me, her eyes curious. What's this about? I knelt in front of her, heart racing like it did that first night. Ava, these months with you, they've shown me what living really means. Not just surviving, but choosing joy even when it's hard. You're not someone I pity. You're the woman who makes me want to be better. I love you, all of you. Will you marry me? I held out a simple ring, a silver band with a small sapphire, her birthstone. Tears streamed down her face, but she smiled, that radiant one I'd fallen for. Yes, she whispered, nodding. Yes, Evan, I will. We kissed there by the water, the world fading away. No fireworks, just us. Two broken people who'd found wholeness together. Our wedding was intimate, held in a sunlit greenhouse on the outskirts of Boulder, surrounded by wildflowers and glass walls that let the mountains peek in. Lauren was my best woman, beaming as she adjusted my tie. Ava's friends, fellow designers, and survivors from her support group filled the seats. No aisles or dramatic entrances. Ava rolled in wearing a flowing white dress she'd altered herself, her hair loose with a few braided strands. I stood at the front, my aunt and a few true friends watching. We exchanged vows under a canopy of vines. Ava, I said, voice steady, I promise to see you every day, not as someone to fix, but as my partner, my equal. Through the easy and the hard, I'll choose you. She looked up at me, eyes shining. Evan, you taught me I'm worthy of love, not despite my scars, but with them. I promise to stand or roll beside you, to laugh in the chaos, to build a life that's ours. We slipped rings on each other's fingers, and as the officiant pronounced us married, applause echoed softly. Afterward, at the small reception, toasts were heartfelt, Lauren joking about how I'd finally gotten a life, Ava's best friend sharing how we'd inspired her own healing. That night, under a full moon on our balcony, we sat close, her head on my shoulder. Regrets? I asked, half teasing. None, she murmured. Except maybe wishing we'd met sooner, so I could have had more time with you. I held her tighter. We have now, that's enough. Our happiness isn't perfect, no fairy tale endings, but it's real. Mornings with coffee and shared work, evenings debating books, weekends adapting adventures to us. The world still stares sometimes, but we don't hide. We live, scars and all, proving love isn't about being whole, it's about choosing to heal together.